Alright, guys. So we're gonna do a discussion about Last of Us 1 and 2, as I think most of us here have actually played 1 and 2, apart from LoveJet. I recently completed Last of Us 2, maybe like I'd say about a month ago now, and I think I completed Part 1 remaster about 6 months ago, and I did it in preparation for the new one that's coming out. And then when the new
How
one
could
came
you not
out,
have played that yet? Oh my days!
no, I played it.
The remastered, you only played it recently, right?
I played, yeah. So remaster. I played it on the PS4, maybe like 9 months, 9 or 8 months
Okay. See,
prior.
I played it back on
Yeah, I told you.
end of PS3 days, so I'm gonna try and
Yeah,
remember bits from it.
original.
Yeah,
Original,
I
yeah.
told you when I played it, innit? I was like, I'm gonna finally sit down and play it because at that point it wasn't that long away, part two. So I was like, I need to play this one to move on to the
What
next
a game, yeah.
or to care about the second one. And I played it, and I was like, I was floored. It was so good. And then part two, I completed recently as well. So lots to talk about. Me and Shachi had this discussion when I went around his place recently, actually, because we
Yeah,
just
yeah.
complete part two, and I was like, so much to talk about. It was such a good, so
A
much to
lot
talk
of
about.
with that game. There's a lot in it.
Mhm.
There's a lot in it.
There's a
Yeah,
lot in
yeah.
there. Part two was definitely a lot longer to complete.
Yeah, it's
Compared
a
to the
bigger
first
game.
one. It was a lot longer. Yeah, this is a discussion on Last of Us 1 and 2, spoiler reviews. So if you guys haven't seen the game, so if you guys haven't completed the game or don't want the story spoiled, turn away because we're going to be talking all about spoilers.
Aye.
Hassan is going to be doing the topics.
Moderator.
How would you think we should go? Should we talk about part
With
two
the first
first?
game, just talk about the beginning and the end.
Let's
That's it.
let's talk about the first one briefly. I want to move on
Yeah,
to the second one
that's
a
okay.
lot quicker in the video so that we can obviously talk about that in the more majority of the chunk because that way everyone can actually get our reviews.
Yeah, but the first game, I'll say just talk about the beginning and the end. Done.
Okay.
Like, the
Boom,
journey,
job done.
then, like with people like LoveJet, you can play the game and enjoy the journey. So spoiling the beginning and the
Yeah,
end.
yeah, yeah.
The beginning, he
Don't
can
worry about
still-
it. I don't care about spoilers because the
he
thing
can
is,
still go back and play.
yeah.
The beginning and the end is pretty much. So the beginning is when you're with Joel and his daughter.
The beginning of this game I thought was amazing because you start off, everything's normal. It's like normal today. You wake up, you're doing your own thing, and you're looking around. And I think she's looking for her dad.
That's it. LoveJet is the Max
Lumping.
Post game.
Yeah, and it's good because it gives you of how everything starts, and it throws you in sort of straight away with the infected and what's going on, etc., etc. So it starts off with Joel and his family.
Sarah.
Sarah. You play as his daughter first, if I remember, and then things are going down, and you're in the neighborhood, and stuff starts happening, crashing, and then
Tommy comes here.
yeah, it's that opening scene. I think just sets the scene really, really well. But with this game, I think the storyline was just incredible, and Naughty Dog can do all the Uncharted series as well.
Naughty Dog.
Naughty Dog.
Yeah.
The Uncharted series, like
The
it's similar.
the opening of
in the
that game.
sense that-
I don't know if you guys seen Walking Dead, but
Brilliant.
Yeah,
Walking
yeah.
Dead. You know
Yeah, of
when,
course.
you know the first bit where he's literally running around in his scrubs. He comes
Yeah.
at the
In
hospital.
the hospital.
And he's
Yeah.
like, "What
Yeah.
the fuck's going on?" He's trying to get home, and there's zombies everywhere. That's the type of vibe that I got from the opening scene in that game. It was like,
Similar.
the
Yeah.
world's
The game-
fucked up. I'm
The best
right
thing about
inside
that
it.
game is actually a short section, the beginning, and they get you to
It's impactful.
like really feel. You get you to really feel for Sarah. And what
Yeah,
happened.
yeah. I was shocked. I was shocked when that
There we go.
part happened.
There we
I
go.
was
Yeah.
like, what?
I
It's like-
initially, when I watched
System
that,
on
when
computer.
I was playing the game, I was like, Ellie
I
looks,
did-
Ellie looks a bit different, doesn't she? Because I was like,
Wait,
she
what?
looks a bit different.
Wait.
This must
Wait,
be
what you-
young. This must be like a young Ellie, because initially I thought his daughter was Ellie. But
No.
obviously, you gotta remember, I played it like only 8 months
You
ago.
played it
right?
recently, man. We
So,
played it
Yeah.
recently.
so you guys played it now, yeah? To me, I'm like, okay, cool. So this Eddie looks a bit different, but okay, whatever. Must be a remaster shit like the Spider-Man what they done, right? So
Yeah.
I'm playing it, and then she fucking dies. I'm like, huh? This is
Oh, why'd
not-
you spoil it? For
I was
other
like-
people? Oh my
No, this is,
Oh.
this
No,
is,
no, no, no. I got my computer on. I'm about to YouTube the introduction, innit? Just carry on
Oh,
talking.
okay.
So,
okay.
so
Yeah,
no,
yeah.
this is for
Yeah.
discussion, so you know. That's,
No, but I mean,
so I
that
was like,
that's when
what?
you knew.
She died.
That's when you knew.
And then I knew, oh, this is not Ellie. I was
Oh.
like,
You know,
okay, okay.
That's when I knew why this game is going to be something sick.
Because
That's
they,
it.
because they,
Because
they make harsh
took the main
decisions,
character
innit?
off
They make
straight
harsh
away.
decisions. Yeah, that's it.
Game
I
of
felt-
Thrones style, man. First few
That's it. The
episodes,
music,
when Thing
the
dies.
music as well. The music pulls you in.
Music was sick.
Gustavo's insane. Like, he's really good job. And then I think just the journey itself. You, unlike any other game, you just like every character you meet.
Like,
Yeah,
I
no,
think-
absolutely.
even when I played that game, I was still quite a new parent still. And that scene happened, and I was like, my heart just died. I was like,
Oh, yeah.
fucking hell.
Good
She
perspective.
just died like that. Like, why? Like, I was so distraught. And then the game started. And good films and good games are the ones that make harsh decisions, things that I'm not always going to be happy about, but they have to do it to make it impactful.
Because you're immersed in there. Because every movement that you make in that game is potentially going to give you away to the enemy, who could just suddenly attack and completely rip you out of that. Whereas with a film, you're not in control of that. You're being driven through that entire journey.
Precisely.
Yeah, you absorb.
You're the
difference
passenger,
between-
whereas in the
Yeah.
game you're the driving seat, and it is more scary. And also, what they do in Last of Us is the fact that every time you do fucking die, it rips up your fucking guts and shit, and it feels like fuck every single time. I'm like, it's like the ending of a film. Like literally, you died, and it happens so often because I die a lot. Cause I'm shit. So
Even though it's like a zombie sort of film, they've made it quite realistic, which makes it a little bit more believable.
Like the way
it's
they
not,
die,
it's not an easy game.
it's not like a simple game over and it starts again. They actually show the sequence play out of how you would have died if you were careless,
screaming
and that's on you because I was controlling it, and I get to see my character die 100 times because I'm shit. So it's quite gross, like the way they pull the fucking or they smash your head in.
Veins.
It's just
Intestines.
it is fucking gross, and it is quite shocking as well, and you feel it more because it's your character. So
It's quite a
it's cool.
sort of. I also found like you got to really think when you're playing the game. You got to sometimes take your time. You got to think about what you're doing because everything's gonna have an effect. And so some of these clickers or whatever they're called, like they catch you once, that's it, you're dead.
Oh,
And your
I fucking hate
resources are so
clickers.
limited.
They're so gross.
Like the
Quick action. You mean quick action, isn't it? The quick action games.
yeah, you
have to
go
quickly-
tap it quickly.
Yeah.
Right? They're like
Yeah,
X
yeah.
or whatever.
But I mean, they're like you hardly get any bullets in that game as well. I was playing the hard mode, so
Yeah, you got to survive. Yeah,
you got bullets are like gold dust. So you think, oh, do I want to shoot him and miss, or do I sneak around him? So you constantly your heart rate is like elevated
Attention.
Yeah,
a lot.
the
Yeah,
different
like you can't wait to go
variations.
to the next cutscene so you can just relax a bit.
Yeah, and you're always using that listening mode just to like
yeah.
be like vroom, vroom, like just
So I've
make
just seen the opening. It's quite deep, man.
yeah.
It's bringing a tear to my eye. It's quite deep.
And that's just the beginning.
That's
So the
it.
rest of the game is
The
amazing.
way they have different ways of transversing like a situation. You can either go by stealth, you can go by direct brute force, or you can go through like let's chuck a bottle here, let them kill each other.
Yeah.
There's so many ways you can go around the scenario, and that's what's really interesting because it's on you, and you gotta do it the best way to try and survive it. So I do enjoy that. It's
Also, the
very
game's actually pretty like easy to pick up in the sense that you don't have tons of guns, you don't have tons of different things.
I do love
Limited
that.
to like 4 or 5 different items
Yeah,
that you can sort of upgrade over time. But it's pretty simple. It's like you said, you have like a brick or a bottle, or like one handgun or
exactly.
one gun, one this.
And you have just your hands, right? Even like in the very first and the second one, like up until that point,
Just about it first now, though.
I tend to just press A quickly wherever there's like an option to make attachments or upgrade your guns. I know Shah, like you said that you basically tried to mod
I
your
went in.
guns to the max.
I too.
I personally I prefer the simplicity, and whenever those scenes come up, I just press A quickly just to see if I've got some credits to do something, because you pile up your points.
Yeah,
innit, to do something.
you auto make stuff. Yeah.
So I quickly just make stuff until I can't do no more.
Obviously, like people experience it anyway, so I think it's best to skip to the end of number 1 because 2's a lot to talk about.
Yeah, 2 is a lot. The thing I was about the first one.
So I keep it
the
simple.
thing about the first one,
Simple is good.
the story's more about getting to a destination.
Mm-hmm.
So that's like the premise of the story. They're trying to look for a cure, and they think they know where it is. So the whole story is traveling across the land, trying to get to a place to sort of find a solution to everything that's going on. And it's about that journey basically with Ellie,
Ups and downs, lots of ups and downs.
Every apocalyptic type storyline, you always desire that storyline of what's the way to cure this? Where's the safe haven? And this one
sounds like that movie.
This one had the safe haven, the five
with Will Smith.
What are they called?
I Am Legend.
I Am Legend.
Yeah, because in I Am Legend it's very similar. It's not more so of a journey. He stays in the city because he's trying to find the cure to save everything. Yeah. Obviously, there's parallels with this, but from what you guys are saying, sorry to interrupt. I know I haven't played the game, but from what you're saying is that Last of Us seems to be very grounded in reality. It's not something that's like any other sort of zombie film, like where you have limited weaponry, everything else. It's to really force you in a real world scenario. How would you make those choices? Because in real world, you're not going to have an assault rifle just randomly lying on the street.
Right, it's like the road.
But the journey, I think that journey aspect of it really probably drives the storyline.
You need an end goal for you to progress through the story. If there wasn't like an end goal in sight, where when I found out that Ellie is essentially immune, I was like, wow, this is mental. And then I was like, she has a journey to make to these people. We need to get there. Here's the 2 points on the map. We got all of this shit to go through. This is pretty much the game. Can we make it? Can we make it to the end? And that bit is the journey. And the journey, you need that journey for you to feel like you need to make that journey and take the risk. Because you can just literally just hide out. But again, I resort back to The Walking Dead. There's always that journey to go somewhere, like the Terminus or wherever it was, where it was a safe haven. There's always that storyline, and there's always that where they have the cure and the army's there waiting for you.
Yeah, but Last of Us' strength is basically the moral choice, because by the end of the game, basically the dilemma is Ellie is the cure, and do you let her die or do you let her live?
That's the thing. We didn't know that the cure meant she needs to die. And that was a really big decision that was made at the end. And
I mean, that's like, because now Lovejoy goes back and plays the game. He can enjoy the journey because there's lots of ups and downs. But ultimately, the end can be spoiled. But the journey's still really good, regardless.
But at the end, do you have a choice? Do you get to make that choice?
The choice is made for you. But as the main character Joel, you shoot the surgeon who's involved in a cure, making the cure. Because basically, for her to be able to save the world, they'd have to do a lobotomy on her, and she'll die.
But the reason why you don't have a choice, but it's your choice, is because this game is done so well that the relationship between Ellie and Joel, while you're playing through it, that's the main thing. Right. Their relationship throughout the game, it gets better and better and better and better, and then you end up really caring for Ellie, and then
Leon. Sorry to interrupt.
Yeah,
very
similar.
Sorry to interrupt you. It's just that I get what you mean, because look, when we play games, we connect to our characters and we connect to the teams that we build. That's the point of the game. When you interact with it, you're playing something, you fall in love with that main character. But I know from a lot of what Hassan's talked about, a lot of what other people have said and what you're saying is very true. Is that Last of Us is that journey of you getting from point A to B, but both characters figuring out and falling in love, and that paternal instinct kicking in over somebody.
Yeah. I mean, the story essentially is building a relationship where essentially Ellie becomes his daughter. He lost his daughter, and then she basically became that person that he's now the parent of, essentially. And throughout the story, they build that relationship to the point where when it comes to decision, it's like, you know, you're with him, you're backing it.
Yeah,
But at the same time, you're like,
right,
it's a mind fuck, because it's like, this is the cure, but you don't want to go ahead with it. But you know that if she had the choice, she would go with it. And then you're like, but I can't let her die. So it's like, I'm gonna have to take the decision out of her hand. And you don't really feel bad for doing it, but at the same time, it's left on a massive cliffhanger as to whether he will actually, she will find out or not. And that's the crazy bit, because even at the ending, he's like, nothing happened. That's all that happened. And you're like,
so basically,
you're like, fuck, he lied. He lied to her face, hardcore.
But don't parents do that though? But the thing is, if you're in that situation and you're, like if you were a parent or you were somebody that's looking after somebody that considers your daughter.
In this event, it's kind of different. Is because if you think about this logically, the world is in chaos. You've got these fucking infected clickers everywhere. This one choice, realistically, would have to bite the bullet and let it happen, because one life is not worth the world. Because ultimately, even though you did fall in love with her, she was not his biological daughter. So technically, he's the antagonist of the world. Full stop.
Yeah, but the thing is, to put that into a real world argument for you, the paternal instincts of somebody who, for example, has lost his daughter and meets somebody that becomes his daughter, you can't argue that. Like, if you were to say to a father that your son has to die, or this child that you're looking after and you've cared about, you've brought from point A to B, must die in order to save the entire world. That is not a decision that anyone would just say, kill him.
You can do, though. I think you can, because personally, like, you know already how it feels to lose a kid already. You're basically cursing the entire world. You're condemning the entire...
man. That's morally a very difficult decision. That's a human life.
No, but he lost his daughter Sarah already.
No.
And by forcefully saving Ellie and killing people along the way, don't forget, it's just cold-blooded murder. He's killing people along the way to make sure that he can kill her, but you're condemning every other...
You split the group here, Hassan. Right. I think you're by yourself on this one.
This is the logic where it segues into the sequel, where Abby's story holds more truth than Ellie's.
But I would...
Because the bottom line is this. Every death, think about this, every death from the point that he knows she could have had surgery onwards is on you. Every death in the world is on you.
But
but the thing is, you're gonna point out.
What do you mean? Every death is on you from that point onwards.
Okay. So, as a player who's playing the game, subjectively, if you think about it logically, one person, let it go die, save everyone else. But the game obviously gets you to feel for Ellie.
Yeah, but again,
you've played 25 hours or 30 hours with her, right? Now, while I was playing it's a very real world scenario in the sense that you have different factions, you have different groups who believe in different things, and it's very realistic of how things might happen, like Walking Dead, where you have different groups and whatnot. So now this group called the Fireflies, apparently they've got a cure. Now, I've always had in my mind, from the first scene where things just flipped on its head, right? I'm thinking, right, I'm doing this journey. I'm not sure what's going to happen. But in the back of my mind, even when they said she has to die to get a cure, I'm thinking, what if they don't find a cure? This is the first time they've done this. Who knows? It could be like, we've done it. She died, but sorry, mate.
You're giving
it might not happen.
You're giving the life of your daughter as a guinea pig. You're not 100% sure. You're not 100% sure.
When I first played, 100% when I was in that last building of the Fireflies, I wanted to gun down every single guy. I was choking them out, shooting everybody headshots. I was going crazy. I was hyped to wipe him out. But I'm saying, in hindsight of finishing in the second, and it teaching you,
I agree with the fact that once you play the second one, you think twice.
Yeah, it teaches you evolve.
I don't know. I don't think it would have changed my mind. Like, having played the second one, I wouldn't say that I'd go back in time and make a different decision and let her die, because I would still feel the same way how Joel felt even in this part 2, where he talks about the fact that if I went back in time, I'd do the same thing again. Because it's true. As a parent,
I'll give you
you would do the same
I'll give you a
thing.
good example. No,
You
I'll
won't
give you a
let that-
good
you won't
example.
let this.
We'll come back to that.
And
We'll come back.
also-
That's the
yeah,
yeah, we'll come back to
I'll
that.
give you a good
But
example. I'll
also
give
the
you a good
fact that
example
you're
of
saying
something.
that, look, she's not her biological, she's not
No, but
his biological daughter. I'm like, the way their relationship developed is pretty much is as good as being your daughter at this point. And you're like, you can't say then, look, my daughter did die, my real daughter died, I'm gonna just sacrifice you right now. You can't do that, man. Not when you have that emotional attachment. You can't. Understand that is for the greater good, because you're saving one life for millions, right? But at that moment, you get told that she's gonna die and there's no other choice. I'm like, fuck no, she's not dying.
I'll give you a good. No, but I'll give you a good example.
Sure, you believe me, right?
No. I'll give you a
When I
good
played the
example of
first one-
hindsight.
You're wrong.
I'll give you a good example of hindsight. So hindsight is like, I'm gonna go a bit off topic, but I'll explain it. I'll explain it to you. Like when Thanos did the
God.
snap, Thanos' decision
Yeah,
to
yeah.
do the snap was to get rid of half the universe, so the rest of the half could survive.
Yeah,
But the
that-
decision to bring them back, in hindsight, was a wrong decision, because you're bringing back the entire universe to tax the universe, even though what
Yeah.
Thanos did was wrong, and they lost their friends for selfish reasons.
That's true,
They brought the people back again. That wasn't legitimately right. Like what Thanos did was correct. You got rid of the half
Yeah,
of the
yeah.
universe so it could survive. And in this situation, I do
It's
get what you're
different.
trying to say.
Slightly
It's different.
situation,
Yeah, it's slightly different, but the thing is,
That's
in
a- that's a
hindsight,
different
it's
discussion,
it's a difficult thing, man.
That
But
makes
Lovejet,
sense.
this is Lovejet. This is where you get corrected. Basically, the initial premise of the sequel is straight away you're kind of thrown into chaos. They kind of reverse the roles of trauma to the player, because we've played the first game, you fall in love with being Joel, and they take him away from you.
Yeah, I know. You told me this.
The reason why he
Yeah.
died is because the surgeon you kill, who was supposed to save the world
Yeah.
by doing that surgery, is you're playing as the daughter is one of the main characters in the sequel.
Okay, Hassan, you just we're jumping to like halfway.
No,
through part two, innit?
part two.
Let's start with part 2 and from the
adds on,
beginning,
it adds
because obviously we need to talk about the Ellie's journey first, and then obviously what happens after through the halfway point. I'd call it the intermission point.
Well, they jump back.
Because
Quite
obviously Abby is a strong character that we need to talk about. We're just going to go through topics and try and cover as much as we can, but obviously we want to try and finish by 1 o'clock. So we move on to part 2 now, and then we talk about that. And then hopefully 45 minutes should be enough.
Yes.
But yeah, let's not jump around too much. You've got the quiz.
I won't interrupt
Yeah.
you.
No, but I'm saying
I
the
have a
reason why I
subject.
brought up
Yeah.
the Abby thing is because it connects fathers. The whole point is fathers.
Exactly. Yeah. I mean, I understand the reason
sequel
for her.
teaches you, the sequel's not teaching you hindsight. It's teaching you there's just bottom line. It's not black and white. There's different points of views from everybody. It's great.
Yeah.
Like you only playing as Joel and Ellie, you take sides basically. But this game tries to make you bigger than that.
Mm.
Yeah.
Your
That's
decisions
true.
are based on
That's the
your
thing. After you play the second game, you get your mind gets split.
Okay. So the main concept.
concept.
The main concept of the first game was about getting from destination to find the cure to save the world. That was the premise, right? And in that journey,
Well,
you developed a really good
it ends on that
relationship.
moral question. It ends on that big moral question. The first game,
What do you mean ends?
whether one life is worth the rest of the world, the weight of one life. That's basically the moral question.
I
it ends
mean,
on.
yeah, that's a
That's
question.
the whole point of the second one. It picks up of this. The second one's more about the cycle of hate.
I would say the second one's just mainly based upon the plot line.
Cycle of hate.
Is about revenge.
The cycle of hate.
This
as
was
in-
this was more like a Taken type shit.
it
It was like
passes
a
on,
proper
it passes
full-on
on.
revenge plot, completely different from the first one. But I'd say it has its purpose, and it needed a purpose because now you don't have the option to find a safe haven to save the lives of everybody. Let's talk about that. The bit about their relationship in part 2. I was really annoyed about the fact that Ellie secretly hated Joel, even though she loved him, but she fucking got so
Mate.
pissed off at the fact that he didn't let her go
Die.
through with the whatever the
Yeah.
situation. that he, like, as a parent, I'm like fucking annoyed at her for
Also, Matt,
being so angry at Joel.
That's really-
I mean, obviously, she's allowed to feel sort of betrayed because she didn't have the decision. The decision was taken away from her, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Joel, right? But at the same time, she took it too far. Shah, what do you think about the fact that she essentially she failed to understand Joel's point of view as to why he did what he did?
You're mistaken.
How do you feel about that?
So this is what I think. It's very realistic, which is why I love the game so much. She is pissed off because, like, she's a teenager. She's going through whatever that she needs to go through, and she understands that her life would have saved so many people, right? So she's pissed off with him. But that's something that almost, I'm assuming, I'm going to go through. Every parents are going to go through, where you have to make decisions for your kids or people that you're looking after that they might not like or might even be wrong, like when you grow up and stuff like that. So I can understand that she's very pissed off. But at the same time, what it is Joel realizes that he was being selfish, I think.
That's it.
Because he really wanted, that's sort of the only reason he's alive is because of her, really. Not because she saved him or anything, but it's because it gives him a purpose. Do you know what I mean? But that's why it's so realistic.
When they go on patrols, and every time somebody loses to a horde of the infected, that could have been absolved if she sacrificed her life. So they're selfishly living and losing people they love on the spot.
It's too. See, you know what the problem here is? It's too massive moralistic things.
Joel,
So basically, Logic. Basically, we were introduced to the character Abby, and she's got her own little crew, and they basically make their way to Jackson. And out of fate, she manages to get lost, and she gets caught up with Joel. Luckily, she meets Joel early, and they dodge a horde, and then they end up in their own little, like, sort of mountain range home.
Joel helps her out.
That's it. He saved her.
That pissed me off a bit more, but the fact that he saved her.
He doesn't know.
She killed him.
Eddie's driven to keep fighting Abby and make Abby her target for that whole story was because she never forgave Joel in that conversation before he died. So it wasn't because...
So there you go. So there you're saying that you admit that she should have forgiven him, right?
She knew she was being selfish. She became selfish herself because she made a life with Dina and they had a child they could look after. But she chose revenge because she just didn't want to let
Mac,
it go.
I think you're not understanding, Mac. You're not understanding. No, but Mac, you're not understanding on the kind of like complex level of this is that what Hassan and what Shah are saying is correct. Like, I have not played the game, but I, from an outside perspective, can say two things. Like, what I feel here is correct. She, in one hand, she regretted the fact that she couldn't apologize to him. But at the same time, when you are angry at the fact of knowing that every death could have been absolved by your death, it is a very, very heavy thing to carry as a human being, because you have to carry that.
So here's the extra weight.
I get that,
which is kind of like plot armor. The surgeon that was Abby's dad was probably the only person who can carry out that operation. Yeah. So that added more weight to, even if she wanted to sacrifice herself, she couldn't now.
So there was one opportunity. He took the opportunity away to fulfill his selfish need. And then her problem was that he didn't have any right to make that decision. Because ideally, it should have been her choice. And if it was her own choice, she would have chosen to die with the knowledge of knowing that her death would have saved millions around the world. So it kind of makes sense. Like, she's in
love too. And that person can die at any time, whether it's from a human gang, like as usual, or whether it's infected. And that's still her fault because the world wasn't restored.
How did you feel about playing with Abby? Did you guys?
I loved it.
Well, you're jumping way forward, man.
Yeah, you are.
We have to. We're talking about Abby already and her father's death.
They don't show you that scene about forgiveness until right at the end of the game. It's like
exactly.
You don't know that she never forgave him until the end of the game. It's like that.
I mean, I still stand by it. The fact that after so much happened in the storyline of part 2, she still didn't forgive him, and that's what pissed me off about her.
Yeah, but how can she?
character.
But no, but how can she?
She can.
Didn't she?
No, she
I'm going to go back a little bit and just talk about the relationship, because the main premise of this thing, on a side note, is the relationships that these characters have. And there's a lot of realistic characters in there, and that you end up really liking, side characters and whatnot. But the relationship, my point is the relationship between Ellie and Joel, which is what everyone talks about, is I personally think that towards the end, at first, when she found out that he killed everyone, and then he took her, she was pissed off with him. But then you realize over time that, you know what, shit happens. She's starting to forgive him, but she hasn't said "I forgive you," but she's sort of slowly starting to forgive him.
I know.
But before she could, now, because the fact that she didn't say it to him, and then he ended up dying, I think that's what hardcore motivated her. And she realized, you know what, I didn't forgive him fully, but he played a huge part. And then they make loads of references, including the guitars and whatnot, to she's there because of him, really, and they're sort of both intertwined together. So she really wants revenge, and you feel for that. And while you're playing the game, because you're playing as Ellie, and there's obviously loads of little side things that happen, but you see her point of view and you agree with it to an extent. You agree, like, yes, this was going to happen. She killed him. Man, how could she do that when Joel tried to help her? And then the way he got killed. Do you know what I mean? But Joel becomes this sort of person. Over time, you can tell that he's sort of a bit tired of life, and he just wants to chill, relax. This is Jackson is where he wants to sort of finish up. He wants to maintain things. He's sort of retired and whatnot. You end up feeling a bit sorry for him. But so I personally think that's why she's heavily motivated to get revenge on everyone. But at the same time, there's a thing where Joel sort of knew that time or something like that might happen, where there's a scene where I think Abby's about to caught him, and he just said, "Look, he doesn't know who she is at this point, but he's like,
but he does say it like, my
do what you got to do."
Exactly.
He goes, my time will come.
He knows he was coming for him. No, but he knows because of all the bad stuff he's done
in the past, that he's going to catch up to him at some point.
I think he says in the game as well, like at some point he was like, it's going to catch up to me.
So except Steph, because he's ultimately a bad guy. He murdered people to get her out, regardless of the law. He murdered people.
He technically became a bad guy.
But there's one thing interesting. There's one thing interesting that Charles said about that was, though, that when she goes on her revenge path, it's very, very clear that it's revenge for forgiveness. That she goes on that revenge path, to admit her sin. That's the only reason she's doing it for. Let's be clear. I haven't played the game. I'm listening to you guys.
But the interesting
that's clear for that.
Obviously, the fact that Joel's dead.
The interesting, without spoiling too much, we've gone through the main bits, but the interesting part of the game is at part of the journey, she hits the bookend. She realizes her revenge. The thing is, the good thing about the characters, as Shah said, being intertwined is, had she not been so obsessed with Abby, she technically ended up saving Abby's life. Because Abby,
a lot of her friends would have lived, because at one stage, obviously, they clash and then they call it quits because they realize, well, we're sort of jumping forward a bit, but it's like a revenge thing where you kill someone, they kill someone from your side, they kill someone, blah blah blah.
It's an eye for eye situation, isn't it? It's just an eye for eye.
You end up playing as Abby as well.
Yeah, right? You've discussed this. You've guys.
What happens is, Abby goes through not similar things, but her own issues and problems, and life is shit. It doesn't matter if you're Ellie or Joel or who, everyone's going through shit. That's when you realize, like, shit, man. But Abby realizes before Ellie does that, you know what, I keep getting revenge, I keep killing people, and it's just a cycle, and it's just going to be the end of me. So when they clash, Abby doesn't kill. Abby could kill Ellie, but she doesn't, because she wants the cycle sort of to end.
That's her trying to break away from the cycle, isn't it?
Yeah, but but Ellie keeps trying to go back. So
until the
that's
second
when,
clash, she realizes.
until the
Yeah,
clash. But
it's a lot of emotional weight because the moment is when it comes to head is in a movie theater when Abby ends up jumping and she ends up killing Jesse, the Asian guy. Jesse, through the connections, has her girlfriend pregnant because he was in love with her before Ellie got involved and they found love. So now she's stuck with this baby to look after. And the father was killed because of her revenge, because of the eye for an eye stuff.
Yeah.
She lost that man.
That whole love triangle with the pregnancy on Ellie's side, as well as with Owen and his girlfriend, and with Abby, that was to reflect that both sides are actually very similar, and then what you're doing and what she's doing, you're both trying to survive, and as a result, they realize that actually we're not too different.
Yeah, but as Shah said, Abby notices way sooner and takes the bigger picture. Because remember, Abby loses Owen and Mel, and the Mel's baby gets killed.
You know, throughout Abby's storyline, like, I was really annoyed to play with her because I was like, I know what she did. And I was like, initially really annoyed. But then as I played through her storyline, I realized most of the time she was getting beaten up and she was getting hammered and she was getting kidnapped and stuff like that, and she survived it. And I realized she's actually a fighter and she's only killing to survive, just like how Ellie is. And
but she got ahead because she was Joel. Because you spend time with her dad. Remember, you have a flashback. You spend time with her dad.
Yeah.
And obviously that's the surgeon who dies. So
and
like
that's her main motivation, right?
And
just like how Ellie's motivation is, a death on her side. She's got revenge. Abby's got revenge.
What Lovejoy will pick up on is they both have really massive PTSD throughout this whole game. They show you
exactly.
But who wouldn't do?
Abby's one is Abby can't sleep. She keeps reliving the day she walks into
that theater,
and seeing her dad die.
That was pretty mad. That the first time I saw that actually that was her dad, I was like, "Fuck!" Now I see.
Yeah, but think about it. When you relive that nightmare, the reason why I changed sides mentally, like took the bigger stance, is because it's really fucked up. Like she saw the dad die, and not just her dad, all the doctors on the way that we murdered because you were the player at that time. You were capping headshots and whatnot. So you were a part of that. At the time,
you were like sick. Like, I'm saving my daughter, but
you're
looking at the side and you're like,
that's a very flip side of it, isn't it?
At what stage did you feel that actually you mentally flipped over? Because it took me a while. I didn't do it straight away, even having seen that.
Yeah,
it's a long game.
Very long game, man. So basically, the first half you're playing as Ellie. And I was playing and I was like, oh shit, I might be towards the end of the game. And next thing you know, day one, and you're playing as what's her name? You're playing as Abby, right? And you're like, when I first started that, I was like, I don't want to play as her. I was like, no, I don't want to play as her. Exactly. What the hell?
That's like
the amazing. The amazing thing about this game is it just flips on its side, gives you highs, gives you lows, and gets you to see this other perspective, because you start off hating playing as Abby, but as it progresses, it slowly unravels the story, and then you start realizing, okay, right, she's actually not a bad person. She's just like another person trying to survive, and this is what's happened in her history, blah blah blah, etc., etc. And so basically gives you both sides of the story, and it lets you sort of decide as the player, okay, who's right, who's wrong. This is both sides of the story, and it gets to an end together. I really like the end.
Like Mac, you're not wrong for not liking Abby and like being on Joel's side. You're not wrong. It's another opinion, but your opinion leans heavily on the suffering of everybody else, basically.
My opinion of Abby was the fact that I hated her initially, and then I think the only time where it changed, where I actually felt, you know what, Abby's actually a good person, is when she started protecting the two kids, the Scar kids.
Mainly Lev.
At that point, when they developed that relationship, to me, it was like that whole relationship of Joel and Ellie starting up again, and then you realize actually, if Ellie kills Abby, who's gonna look after this kid right now? And I got paternal again, and I was like, I was like, Abby's actually, she's only doing this to survive, and she's trying to protect this person, and she's realizing herself that she's killing too much, and then she's realizing, why am I killing innocents? Because after killing so many people, the bad people, you realize you're just killing people, and then you're like, who are you actually, what are you actually doing? All you do is killing people, and so many good people are dying, and then you realize, what the fuck's going on?
But there's nice touches throughout the game, like early on in Seattle Day 1, if you find the music shot, Ellie stops and plays guitar for Dina, and she sings "Take on Me."
Yeah.
It ends on a line where she looks at the guitar and is a lot sadder. She sings the line, "It's better to be safe than sorry," which is basically her decisions throughout the game. She will constantly remember, because at a point in the game, you're in a lovely house with Dina looking after Jesse's baby. She still can't get rid of the hate, so she decides to find Abby because she thinks in her head Abby's going to come for her.
I was annoyed at the fact that she still went out for revenge at that stage, but then at the same time I was like, you know what, that was your initial mission, you got slapped up, maybe finish it off. And even then, up until that point where she got to
Santa Barbara
and deflated Abby,
yeah, but you got to think about that.
She was like,
she was like pretty much dead. If she gave up the cycle, Abby and Lev would be dead. They were hanging. They were left hanging. They would have been dead.
She actually saved her, and then she tried to kill her again. And I was like,
yeah, that's, I mean, that was
a bit too much. But then, after having dealt with that was, by the way, the graphics on that fight was amazing. Insane. Even that last sequence shot, you know, when the entire village was on fire.
Yeah, but in this game,
the village.
The best thing about the game design is in that last fight, you had to stab when you didn't want to stab.
Yeah.
I've just checked out the fight now.
It was immense. The
you didn't want to beat up Abby. At the end of that time, you as a player did not want to beat up Abby, but you had to press square all the time and stab her.
I was like, I think Ellie felt like you had to get to the point where you think you've killed her, to the point where, okay, I could beat you now. I could let you go. And that's what she did in her mind. And she was like, you know what? I've actually defeated her now, but I'm going to let her live. That's what she did. She was drowning her to the point where
she was half gone anyway. She was like,
I know,
she wasn't herself anymore.
Yeah, but I was like, in the back of my mind, I was thinking, if he kills her, this kid's gonna be by herself. And then
that wasn't why she stopped.
Remember the flashback she has just before she was about to kill him.
That's it. It's the full circle.
Joel. Yeah.
She only realizes late that she should stop. Abby realized it early. She only realized that time.
Yeah,
more of their friends are going to die. More of the loved ones are going to die if they don't stop.
That's it. So it's just
sometimes you have to get to that extreme. You know that initially you don't want to stop because that revenge overrides you. But then when you get to that,
revenge consumes you. That's what it is, isn't it?
And but when you get to that point, that tipping point, or that peak of it, and at that moment it can either go this way or that way, and you realize that this will never end. Like, realistically, revenge can never end. Like,
so
it's the way it is.
Lovely, there's a key bit where in the lovely house, when they're playing Happy Families, Joel's brother comes back because obviously Abby messed him up. He can't carry out his revenge. So he's the one who actually forces the final decision on Ellie. But Ellie gets an ultimatum by Dina, meaning if she carries on with it, she loses that love.
Yeah,
that's gone. But she's got PTSD. She's seeing visions. She's shaking all the time. So she goes through with it anyway as closure. That's because she's seeking.
I think you have to though, because the situation is, it's that it is an arc of revenge for that fact that you did not get to say to the person that saved your life that you forgave them.
Yeah,
instead, you saw them die.
She found love.
Yeah, but love cannot survive. Yeah, but love cannot survive.
But you got to also remember, a large following of the gamers that actually played it, that felt that her revenge plot wasn't ended because she's still alive. They were obviously thinking, I need to continue, I need to finish
a lot of
people, you can imagine, a lot of people would be like, I need to finish this off, right? So there's a majority of people that would have been like, Ellie, you best finish the job, because if you don't, I'm going to be annoyed. So there's the thing is, this story split so many people. Isn't it? So many people went different ways. Some people.
But sometimes revenge is not about killing the person.
It's not my opinion.
No.
What I'm saying is that people that would have played it would have felt like you best kill her.
Yeah, but
Otherwise, why did I play this?
that's why it went out.
30 hours for?
Fans were giving them death threats. The voice actors and the director. Fans were giving them
No,
death
but
threats.
it's stupid. The point of it is to teach you that revenge does not solve everything. That's the point. Like, the point of the game is that when you're so heavily invested in the characters, is to try and make you understand that revenge is not going to solve the issue. Like, yes, from what you're telling me, for her relationship's sake, she had to go through that bullshit with Abby in order to achieve what she needed to achieve. Because otherwise, if she didn't go through that, her relationship would have ended and she would have been stuck in a place that she wouldn't have liked. But
No, she liked it, but PTSD didn't leave her. She didn't feel safe.
But that's what I mean. But that's what I'm trying to say is that if she didn't do that and her relationship and the PTSD would force that to suffer, the only conclusion of that is that you would lose that relationship. By going through that journey to get to that peak, to realize, wait a minute, this is just bloody pointless. Like, if I carry on trying to kill you, nothing's going to get achieved in this situation. We're just going to be consistent.
Scary part of it, though. She does know she's wrong, but she has to finish it.
Also, I do think that because they want to make a trilogy, they had to keep Abby alive and they had to keep Dina missing somewhere. These are stories that they can continue on because now the where's Dina? He's going to have to find her. Right? It's a very massive franchise for them. They have to make at least a trilogy, right? So if they lived happily ever after, and Dina missing somewhere means that there is hope for more storyline.
What I'm going to say, Lovejet, is the time when. So there's a scene where they both meet, Abby and Ellie, and Abby wins and lets them live as well when she shouldn't have really. And then it's all like, okay, fine, we lost, we're gonna go back home. And then you go back to the house. Like, there's a scene where it's a bit down the line. They've got a baby and whatnot, and they're in the house. And I literally thought the game's ended now, and I thought, now we're gonna probably have a little scene of this and that, blah blah blah. Because by this time, I've already played like 26 hours or so, right? 26 hours. And literally, I thought the game was about to end. Next thing you know, there's a bloody whole mission where she's like, no, I need revenge. I'm going to go and find freaking Abby. That was crazy.
I gotta admit, I was like, oh, please finish. I was like, please, I want to finish the game. I was feeling a bit tired mentally at that stage.
Yeah, it's emotional exhaustion. You go through a lot in that game. Like, mentally, you go through.
She sort of had to, only because of you find out that the Fireflies still exist through Abby, right? So I think that bit they had to put in to sort of have the third bit open. Now, what happens in the third one, I have no idea. But from what we know, I personally don't think Dina will be involved too much because she's got a kid and whatnot, and she's somewhere else. Now, they might re-interact and be like, hey, how's it going? Yeah, sorry about earlier, would you forgive me, blah, 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 and whatnot. But they're going to go and find the Fireflies. Now, whether Dina and Abby, whether Ellie and Abby might become, not friends, but work together for something, I don't know. But I think they're going to go and find the Fireflies, and it's going to be that decision where, does she die or not to save humanity?
It's a tough one.
The safe haven that Owen was talking about that he wanted to go to, is that where the last pocket of Fireflies were?
Yeah, the bait.
Yeah.
So this could be the next storyline where it would be again the mission to save humanity, possibly.
Cool, man.
Have a good one, guys. But have a good discussion and check it out.
Sorry, ruined the game for you.
No, it's fine. You didn't ruin the game. It's actually intrigued me more to try and get hold of it and play it. Yeah.
Definitely get a PS5 and play that.
Adios, guys.
See you later, man.
Yeah, take care, man.
Bye.
Man.
Game mechanics wise, I felt like it was a lot more polished. It was more like it reminded me of Spider-Man, the new Spider-Man, where you could punch, slide, kick, slide. It felt like that. It was more intuitive, whereas I think the first one was a little more, how would you say, rigid.
Yeah, it's accepted in its time, but it just leveled the game up massively.
It felt so much more better. I loved going in there.
I wouldn't say it was so much more better. But
I felt it was a lot more. I mean, I don't know.
You're right, because the core gameplay doesn't change. The
if you pick the
crafting,
first one, you
gameplay is
easily pick this one up.
Crafting is sick. The fact that you gotta build this stuff in live play, it doesn't pause the game. It's like these enemies are fucking coming up, and you like fucking quickly build this shit. And then I love that. It's like that urgency, right? But
you guys feel remorse because the bad guys knew each other this time round.
Yeah.
I feel like in most games we don't get that. In this time,
yeah,
they cry for each other's deaths and stuff in this. Like when you kill Dave, oh my god, Dave's dead.
Yeah, they have names. That I'm actually like, oh,
they weren't just like
Dave,
random
man.
people. Like majority of the time, they were random people that you're killing in the first one, right? This one, it was like you know both sides. So every time someone dies, you're like, who fucking died? Oh shit, he died. It's like it's that type of effect. That's the idea. The fact that you played with so many different characters, I actually quite enjoyed that. The fact that you get to experience different game mechanics, essentially with different characters. You get to play the Scar, you get to play as Abby, Ellie. I think you played as one of the brothers as well. You played with Joel, right?
Yeah. What did you guys think of?
I love the fact that you could play with so many variety because it does get a bit stale if you were just playing with Ellie.
To be fair, I started getting a bit annoyed with Ellie because she's just like always like negative and irritating.
Same.
Becoming a bit irritating at one point.
This is what I was saying in there. The fact that she wasn't forgiving him and she was like, fuck. That pissed me off, and I was like,
but not that.
All you're going for is anger, and I'm like, all right, enough, Ellie. I do get that side as well, yeah. But yeah,
even with Abby, they did a really clever way in the gameplay. Like if you spin the camera around, whenever you was at heights, she'll be scared.
Yeah.
True.
Yeah, if you put her at any heights, she starts shivering.
She'll get heights, innit?
Yeah, she'll get a vertigo.
That was crazy how high they wait for the.
Yeah, that was brilliant.
I fucking loved that. I was like, fucking hell.
But it was smart because it took you high and gave you those views, and then it got really tense because you had to descend that hotel with the infected hotel. You have to go down.
The amount of time.
Oh man, the bottom of the hotel.
Yeah. Yes, that's what I'm saying.
The hotel. Which bit?
You know, like basically you go up the skyscraper, then you have to go down it.
Yeah. Oh.
And you're all infected.
It tells you, look, press L to look, and it goes doo-doo, and you're like, oh fuck, I have to go there. How the fuck am I gonna go there? The environments were amazing, right? At some areas you felt like, okay, this is a bit PS3-ish, but majority of the times it felt like.
Wait! I never thought it was PS3-ish. There was never a moment where it was PS3. This is the best looking PS4 game.
Yeah.
It was amazing, but there was some times where you felt like, okay, you can see the graphical. Not
really.
There was some times. I think when
maybe
you were like
you were playing on a PlayStation and not a Pro, something like that.
Yeah, maybe.
Nah.
I think even in the base PlayStation, it still looks really good. Like
it looks amazing.
Nobody has said this game looks bad. I think that's the only complaint I've never heard.
No. I mean, at times you can see that, like it was almost picture perfect. Like it was like photorealism at a certain times. Like the way the way they moved from cutscenes into gameplay, then back into cutscenes. I was like, this is a fucking movie. It was so smooth. Like the point where she flew down that snowy trail, remember? She was running down, she's like rolling, and then she rolled into the cutscene. I was like, fucking, this is bad. It's a fucking film. And then you're playing, and then it never felt like you got out of the you never got taken out of the journey.
Yeah, you didn't get distracted.
But yeah, I mean, I know what I'm saying is that there was moments where you could look around and the world's amazing, yeah, but then sometimes you go underneath the water and then suddenly you see a few more cubic areas and you're like, okay, now I can see graphics.
But that's a little graphical limitation.
It's bound to happen because they're not going to, polish out everything.
It's graphically intense, that game. So.
You can look at certain things, you can zoom into certain things and be like, well, but overall, when you look at the overall picture and then you look at those scenes where it's like, like the
you're forgetting PlayStation is like a 7-year-old machine.
Panoramic views, yeah. It's like, to me it looked like a PS5 game, but then there's hints of it still being a PS4 game, which is obviously understandable. The fact that it looks like a PS5 game is amazing for what they've done because they've done the best.
I think The Last of Us, the first one, still looks like the remaster looks amazing.
Good.
I can't
wait
for
what
they do.
It's the art direction that kills it.
You can imagine like what they're gonna do with the next one. It's gonna be even.
Even like, what did you guys think of like, as Ellie, you go into Ground Zero, the hospital bit, But then when you go as Abby, you're actually taking on the baddest tents because you're going through the tents.
Yeah, you're like fucking hell.
Yeah, that bit,
16.
that bit was mad. That bit was
That was mad. What bit did I like? Freaking! Did you guys see the PlayStation 3?
Yes,
That
the
was
beginning.
good touch.
Right, the beginning.
And they had Uncharted.
I saw the cars.
Yeah.
She was playing the PS Vita, and I was like,
Yeah, so
Yes,
I
yeah,
was like, come on, man, that's so obviously selling.
And then they had the Crash Bandicoot scene. They talked about Crash Bandicoot when they go into the. So basically, when they go into the theater,
Uh-huh.
or no, they go into one of the hideouts and they find this old guy's porn stash or something like that. And they called Crashes something, but it's a direct reference to Crash Bandicoot.
Oh, because I never played Crash Bandicoot that much. Like, I played the PS1 original, but I wasn't like a massive fan. That's probably why I didn't clock the reference.
Yeah, okay, yeah, I didn't know.
Poochie's Bandicoot or something like that, they call it. But yeah, there's a lot of Easter eggs in that. But one of my favorites was when they talk about Jurassic Park.
Yes, yeah, that's sick. Yeah, that's sick.
The conversations was like so realistic, like the way they were talking, the things that they were doing, even like the sex scenes in between the films. It's like it's legit like what you would see in that environment, like what would happen. You know,
it's a blockbuster, like it's like a movie blockbuster.
Exactly, but you felt like you played enough of the game to not be like a bystander. You know, you got proper into, you're not just tapping A or X or whatever, you're actually playing integral parts. There's a lot of shooting scenes where I actually like the action scenes. I love taking the guns out and just shooting, you know, where I can.
There was parts that felt really annoying to me, where like, mostly in Abby's part, because they would make you do stupid journeys, like going to the aquarium again. Because you did that already. You did that already.
Again.
It could have teleported those bits that you've already
You went
retreaded.
there like 2 or 3 times or something like
Yeah, like if there's some jarring. The boat, being on the boat was a bit. I didn't mind the sniper with Tommy.
I like the boat journey. That was good.
Really good. The Tommy with sniper, the Tommy sniper bit was really good.
I really like that bit. And
Yeah,
then I was surprised at the end. Like obviously when the guy died.
Manny, yeah.
Yeah. I started liking him a bit, but
Yeah, that
You
was
guys are like,
deep,
what
man.
the
Right through the eye, boom.
But see, that's the power of the game. You end up liking people you didn't like initially.
yeah.
And
But
it's
then
like,
it was his brother in it.
Like, you know, initially when Owen
And
died,
then it made sense. Like, oh shit,
you know
when
when-
they meet up and he's a sniper.
you know,
That's it, yeah.
exactly, yeah. It's like I've seen films like that where they show both ends, and it's like, oh fuck, it's like a game you can see both ends of it. It's like one of those years. You know, like how when you see like a time traveling type of a film, and then you see that something happens, and then suddenly you realize actually it was you in the future that did that. It's like one of those mind-boggling bits.
My only negativity, I think, is they try and do way too much in a short time. Like, obviously, they try and get you to understand negativity and hate in many forms.
So I love that game, and I think you can't get a perfect game. And yeah, there are going to be a few flaws in every single game. And my only flaw in that game, I thought, was which didn't flow with everything that's happening, is when Lev, out of nowhere, just decides to take a boat and go back to his village, and you have to do some long mission to try and get him back.
I know, I was so annoyed. Like, what the fuck are you
basically,
doing?
basically,
Someone that's gonna kill you because
he wanted-
Lev said it himself that his mum's never gonna forgive him for leaving and throwing shame on the Scars family, right? And then he goes back to her for forgiveness, and then lo and behold, his mum's gonna kill her.
He still loves his mum, and then they find out the WLF are attacking the island.
That's why he went back.
That's why.
I don't know.
Because he knows
that they were being attacked.
he could still lose his mum, but his mum hates him. So it's like a double. It's a
It
double
was dark
thing.
in there. Like the mom trying to kill him still. I'm like, you're deep. It's like it's just deep. And
But
then
that
she
whole
dies.
mission, I thought, man, that's like.
Visually, it was good though. Like, you know, being on the it's like being in Thailand. They had like the really massive grass areas. Like visually, I was on it. But I get you.
Also, there was areas where I wanted to just rush through, right? And certain bits I can, but then they force you to go into these dark caves, and it's like you're digging through, and you got to look for the little circle that says press triangle to move on the story. I'm like, fucking, where the fuck do I press triangle? I'm looking around, and eventually it's like, and then you press triangle. Then it's like, she starts talking. I'm like, all this time I was in your face, you weren't moving with the story. Until I press fucking triangle. Now she's like, oh yeah, let's progress now. I'm like, you stupid idiot. Like,
but there's loads of optional conversations. I probably missed a ton of them. That's why the second time round, I'm probably gonna go online and like grab a guide so I
No,
can't.
but
think.
there's bits where they're optional, but there's also bits where you're forced to sort of search around. Like in
Yeah,
the
yeah.
aquarium, they won't
Yeah.
progress with the story unless you've gone, because you could talk to that person that's meant to move on and take you out, but she won't take you out. She'll be like just waiting there, and then you go around, you press triangle on this, you look at this dartboard, you look at this paper, then you come back to her. She's like, "Oh, let's go." Now you're fucking saying go all this time.
Yeah,
Like,
yeah.
it's
I
like
get
they
it.
want you
They're
to sort of look
forcing
around.
they're forcing you to immerse yourself in the world. When you
Yeah.
don't have.
So sometimes
Yeah.
I don't mind that because naturally you do that because you're walking around and then you play the game and then you know about this area. But sometimes you just want to move on because you're like, I'm fucking tired. I want to move on with the story. They still tell you to, immerse yourself and then come back. Like in the story, they will say, have a look around, see if you can find anything.
Yeah.
That's when you're meant to go around looking at stuff, pressing
That's
triangle.
why I love the.
And I'm
the
like,
museum. The museum
you're
section was strong for that. The museum section, you wanted to see everything.
But that's where I see sometimes a bit of padding because sometimes they're forcing you to do it when you don't really want to. You want to move on, and when you're trying to run through the underground passages, man, they are. I don't like the bit when it gets super dark and you can barely see shit, and then the shit is trying to attack you, and you're like, fuck, and this fat fucker, the ones with the
One of the bosses.
no with
The
the
bloaters, they're called.
the clickers, but the crazy ones.
The bloater, the fat
bloaters,
Oh,
yeah,
my
bloaters.
God. Clickers were nasty in this one. They were even more crazy.
They're cool. Yeah. You know what was really tense
To
when they
shoot
brought
them,
in
shoot them. You can't
the new
punch
ones that stalk you.
Oh, the stalkers, yeah, they move bare fast. I was like,
You're in that office building, and they just appear and run off, and you're like, "Fuck, I should shoot you!" Like,
yeah, I see your
You know when you're walking between the buildings and then the building, the tower that's collapsed on another tower,
Mhm.
and you're walking through the windows and you can see
Yeah.
the offices and you're actually quite high up.
So
I
cool.
was like, "Bruh, this is a fucked up city right now."
amazing, amazing.
You're climbing through buildings and you're going into a room, then you're going down the building and you
I
realize
was
where you are.
impressed by, like coming out and seeing the big T-Rex and being able to climb on it and stuff like that.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
One thing I loved about this game is, so I played it on hard mode and I sort of took my time because I really wanted to experience this because off the bat I knew I was going to love this game. It took me 39 hours.
Okay.
So I did a lot. I tried finding everything and whatnot.
Damn.
At
I did
no-
about 20, I think.
At any point,
About 31, yeah. So
Yeah.
go on.
but while I was playing, to an extent, I never got bored because the game's very clever. When there's like a slow part of the game, Ellie starts talking, or someone else starts talking and telling you something, or just to keep you entertained so that you don't get bored. And it's constantly like you're not bored. At some point, someone will start talking or telling you about this or telling you a joke or this, that. I thought it very, very clever.
I first noticed that when I played God of War, the remake.
Yeah.
Because when they were on the boat ride,
Mhm.
doing
Yeah,
nothing
yeah.
but going somewhere, and then they're catching jokes. He's like, "Dad, what about this?"
God of War 5,
He's like, "Shut up, boy!" And it's like, it's so funny, like the story. He keeps asking questions, and I was like, at the time again, I was like, "Hey, just a new dad," and I was like, "This is so funny. I can't wait for my son to start talking like this." And I ask the questions, because he asks like a normal question, and as soon as he gets off the boat, he shuts up talking, and I was like, "This is wicked. Like, it doesn't feel like a loading scene. It doesn't feel like I'm traveling somewhere and I'm bored. It's like character building, and they incorporate that. Hassan, this was talking about in the newer consoles where they're going to remove loading scenes. I'm like, is it going to affect these things that I've been
Yeah, it will.
enjoy?
Yeah, it will.
Because I quite like this now, character
It's
building.
it's a new problem to solve.
Yeah, because now they get to
I
put
don't
it in.
It's going to ruin
Now-
it.
It's a good problem.
It's a good problem to have because now if they want to do that, they can do it as part of the
They
actual
can act
game.
in, yeah.
Rather than being a loading scene, being forced to do it, they have the option to do it as a. But
Yeah,
the
be
fact
smooth,
that
be really smooth.
but the fact that they did this to wipe away the loading, boredom, was amazing. Like the character
Yeah.
building that happens in these conversations was amazing. The fact that when essentially when Joel's flashbacks happen,
Mhm.
but by the way, very heart wrenching. Those
Oh,
flashbacks
yeah,
after he's dead.
Mm.
But it was almost like a dream. They weren't that long. Like you're getting from A to B
Yeah.
in about less than 5 minutes. But it felt like a very long loading scene. But to fill it up, they did that, and it was really moving for the story, innit?
Yeah,
Yeah,
because they push each other when they push each other into the river, and then like those little things, little interactions. Like,
It felt like
Yeah,
a very
I don't think
nice
it was a loading screen.
because it was like a dream. It felt even more like a loading screen, but it was such a good sort of like a loading screen that.
No, I don't think it was. I thought it was just information. It wasn't
Yeah.
like a loading screen.
Something
It's
that
just-
you need to go through.
No, because like it happens after big sequences, like when she's about to leave.
Yeah, but I think it's supposed to
the
keep
theatre.
your love going. You
And
know?
it's giving you a breather.
Also, why I would say that is because whenever those scenes happened, my PS4 would be like,
yeah.
and it's like literally the maximum sound, right? Like venting out all kinds of air. It's about to take off through that entire scene, and then when it finishes, lo and behold, we're in Siakam Day 2.
Because those
You know?
those scenes have a lot of script. It pushes your PlayStation to the limit. Those
Nah,
scenes.
do you not think
Those
it's loading? I think it's
No,
loading.
it's not. It's performance. It's all performance. Your
think
fan only comes up when there's performance issues.
No, I thought it does that to load up the next world.
No, it's performance issues. Loading can happen slyly in many ways.
Yeah.
Like when you get parts where they're like ducking between things, that's when loading happens.
But to me, it felt like a really good loading screen that
It's not loading, it's not loading.
had actual story that you could actually do.
With a game where you're trying to get from A to B, unless it's a quick travel, they're not gonna they're gonna still have that journey. They're not gonna just make it really short and quick just because they've got really fast SSD. They'll still have that, but it's just all the if you've got quick travel, it'll happen instantly.
Yeah,
Basically.
They'll
So that's
incorporate
the
story where
improvement
it
that we're
needs
gonna
to
have.
be.
But we're not gonna lose any gameplay.
Which is good.
Yeah.
Which is good. Yeah, that's always good.
But as I was saying, that whole scene is there just to break up the amount of murder that's going on. That game's a lot of emotion. There's a lot of emotion and murder in that game,
Even
man.
the banter, even like Shah was saying, like the amount of swearing that happens, you're like you're a bit shocked in it. But I like the fact that it's quite raw. Like they're talking like
you got like
it's
high.
realistic.
it's
Yeah,
realistic.
that's it. That's it.
You know?
It's just-
What rating was that? It should be
It's
like-
18.
It's 18. Yeah, it's
It
18.
has to be an 18.
Yeah, definitely 18.
Because like, it's very.
It's not like
the
when you're
language is explicit.
if you level up Ellie's melee attacks, she really stabs them up. Like
That's another aspect as well.
Proper.
The violence. Like I'm like obviously when it comes to gore, I'm a bit cringy about that. And I played the game. It was phenomenal. But after seeing like 20 hours of like fucking dirty, I felt a bit messed up, man. I gotta be honest.
you're actually doing it. That's the problem. Like when you use the baseball bats with the wire, you see the flesh chunk off. Come on.
And
Yeah,
again, like when you die as well, like at that scene, that dirty clicker that comes to the back and fucks you up and pulls you off. Like every single time I die, I feel that pain, and it's like.
Did you kill the
realistic.
dog? Did you kill the dogs or did you not avoid them?
Sometimes, yeah, sometimes I killed them. Yeah.
See, that was brutal because I didn't want to shoot them directly, so I left mine.
Puppies.
I sniped them from far, man.
What do you
I
do?
was so scared of them.
How is it? That's actually the cleanest way. Because I laid the mines, I laid those little trip mines, and when they hit them, you just see their legs fly off and stuff.
Shit.
You're like, I was like, oh,
That's
I made
even
it worse.
That's even worse than shooting them, man. You
Yeah.
got to blow
I
them
mean, no,
up.
they were difficult. Remember, I was playing on hard mode, and they were difficult, man. As soon as they come close to you, my heart's like boom, boom, like, oh shit, I can't get away from these
Yeah,
guys.
because you're fighting over here, and it's like these fuckers come running up to you and start losing all the energy, and like, fuck's sake, where the fuck are you? Because they get hidden behind the grass.
Yeah.
So you gotta shoot them first. 'Cause they cause
when
damage.
you use the heartbeat mode, you can see the smell trail that the dogs use.
Yeah, okay. Even like the bosses were like pretty good.
There wasn't many in this, but they stood out. Yeah.
The fact that you had to fucking at one point you had to fight Ellie, that was funny. I was
Oh,
like,
yeah.
I was like,
Yeah,
I don't want to fight Ellie. I don't want to kill her.
Ellie was good though.
You knew
you know
that
what?
at that fight. You knew that you
I
can't kill
kind
her.
of changed my tune because I really enjoyed playing with Abby because she was more military.
Yeah. She was.
Like when she did her combos and stuff, she was a lot more on point.
I did enjoy playing with Ellie's arrow. She became a lot more skilled in that. I think in the first one she did a little bit.
Yeah,
but
this
in
one.
This one she was like a pro with the arrow.
Yeah, it was,
Right,
and the way you can like lie down as well in this one was quite cool.
Yeah.
Little add-ons to like
in Call of Duty, that's called Last Stand.
proning as well. Yeah.
Like, you know, like Last Stand when you're about to die and you got that pistol. It's like that.
Yeah.
You can get yourself up again, isn't it? It's pretty mad.
Yeah, that's sick. I also like the fact that when you play as Abby, you have to you don't have a knife, so you go back to how Last of Us, the first one was, where you have to get the shivs.
Oh yes.
Because when you play as Ellie, you don't need a shiv because she's
That's
got
it.
fucking knife, so it's quite easy.
Oh, you got to build a knife, innit? Yeah. Also, these are little like things that they made improvements on, like the fact that she can swim now, which was like really annoying in the first one.
Yeah, but that was the whole point of your loading screen.
Yeah.
That's development.
The whole point of that scene when they're pushing each other into the river is he teaches her to swim.
She's trying to teach her to swim. Yeah.
True. Because obviously it's like a flashback.
More connection. It makes, and putting it that late in the game adds to the rage of losing Joel.
Also, I felt that I didn't feel like I missed Joel that much as a result of the flashbacks of their memories.
Yeah.
I felt like Joel was
Really,
there.
for me, it was more heavy. The loss was heavier because
it felt really a little bit deep. But the fact that he kept showing up in flashbacks, I was like, Joel's back again. Like I felt happy. Like it was nice. So I did like the fact that they did that. The sprinkle.
And then you get that final one, and you're like,
throughout
the
film.
depression.
They sprinkled it in throughout the film, innit? Cool. So we're over an hour now, guys. So what do you want to do, Hassan? Like any other?
So from going forward, apparently there's going to be a big announcement, but everyone knows it's the multiplayer.
Yeah.
They're going to add the multiplayer. Some people were saying it's apparently thinking it's DLC, but I think they're dreaming. I think it's going to be the multiplayer.
Controversy about when it leaked, they said that Joel died, and they were like, "Okay, fine, I don't need to play this game no more." And that's what the controversy was when it got leaked. And I was like,
well, basically, it's two things.
I was like, "Fuck off!"
There was a lot of anti-hate because they thought that Abby was the transgender character.
Yeah.
Okay.
That's what.
So in bullet points, all they saw was a transgender kills Joel. So then they thought, what is this fucking game? And everyone just negativity just came out of that.
People started jumping on that hype and just, even though they probably liked it, they thought, no, I want to hate it. Yeah,
that's it.
I watched the fact that people were like, they were checking out purely because, Joel's dead. You know what? I'm not going to play this game. And I'm like, come on. That was a brave decision. I felt like them killing Joel off was a big step. That was a necessity for the storyline because, again, the whole revenge plot was manufactured from that death, right? So it was a really big moving point for the game, and I personally may not be happy that Joel died, but at the same time I can understand that not controversial but a sad process in the storyline makes it an amazing film, like an Oscar-winning film, rather than it being just a decent film or happy film.
Yeah, but also remember in Last of Us 1, he was like middle-aged. Getting on a bit. So to jump time and make Ellie older, he'll be old, so he can't be gangster sniping everybody at that age. Right?
Oh, Joel's a gangster, man. But
it just makes the game a bit more realistic. That shit like that would happen.
At that old age,
you're killing so many
around,
random people. So those people that you're killing could be like a Joel in their little community or whatever.
That's it. Yeah, that's it. Exactly.
But it's all realistic, man.
But what I'm going on about is the fact that a really amazing story is not always a happy story, and that's what they did.
Yeah, exactly.
And the fact that people are getting pissed off about that it's not happy.
Yeah, but you can't always get what you want as well.
Those people that were saying that sort of pissed me off at the same time, but at the same time I can understand that it's going to have different viewpoints and it's fine. Everyone's allowed to have their opinion about it, but I just think it was amazing, the story, how they did that, and
same.
And they made great decisions to kill people like that. Big characters.
All the people that were hating on that, who were like, "Oh, I'm not going to play anymore," I guarantee you, 99% of them have already played that game.
Yeah, to the end, like bought it, completely loved it, and I think they completely loved it, but they just don't want to say.
They probably just watched it on YouTube, and they probably felt like they played the game, but they didn't actually invest the time. If you play the game and you invest the time, you have more of a reason to care for the characters.
Yeah, that's it. It's a part of the journey of the game to be actually playing yourself.
Like you said that they watched the first film, the first
my brother,
and then played the second one, right?
Yeah, but he doesn't care as much because you miss the conversations in the gameplay.
But the thing is, by doing that, you don't have the same sort of care for the characters.
Yeah, definitely.
So that's why I knew that I had to play the first one to then understand the reasoning for the second one, because then it won't be as emotionally attached to the second part, because I'd be like, okay, he died, whatever, I don't care about him. But play the first one, which is what Naughty Dog intends you to do in it, like the director of the game intends you to follow the journey, so you to feel the care for the characters. So when they do die, it pulls on that emotional string, which is obviously you need to play the game. You need to put the investment in for you to feel the rewards.
Yeah, you grow with your character.
It was phenomenal. They could make that into a film. They're making Uncharted film, right?
I remember they're making it into a TV series, The Last of Us.
Hopefully they do it justice, man.
HBO are doing it, which gives me more hope.
Walking Dead,
Game of Thrones, guys. Yeah.
Walking Dead, basically. We'll end it there. Thanks a lot for coming on. That was a brilliant discussion, and hope you guys enjoy it. Leave a comments below. Let us know if you have any questions. These guys will answer them as well, but they'll read the comments. If you have any discussion, any questions about the game itself, anyone that played it, or if you have any questions about our points that we made, leave a comments below, and obviously we'll try our best to answer them all. But you're doing great, and I will leave it there. Thanks, guys.
Okay, thanks.